Welcome to the T Show.
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 And this is TTT together.
We got Dean Wahle on the show today. TTT together. Welcome on. How are you doing, Dean?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So and this is a very exciting episode because Dean is actually a clothing. It's a founder of Matik, which is a clothing production design, startup that he just started recently. And we're very excited to talk about a lot of things this episode about college students who are, pursuing something we're passionate about. And so, yeah, let's welcome Dean. You're a rising junior at Wake Forest studying
computer science.
Do you want to tell us a little bit more about yourself, Dean?
Sure. So I grew up in Duxbury, Massachusetts, which is about an hour south of Boston. I've lived here basically my whole life. And then I went to Wake Forest for college. And I've been a fan of clothing and streetwear since like my sophomore year of high school. And I kind of got into that through Kanye, and just like that's like well, he kind of introduced me to it, and then like I've been making clothes since my junior year.
Right.
Yeah, and then so that's where we're at.
Very exciting stuff. And I've been following your design since I discovered it, and it's some crazy designs, man.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, and we're also drinking tea today's episode. I'm having some Dien Hon, which is a type of black tea from Yunnan, and I'm having Iron Goddess. Iron Goddess, nice. And how do you like it? Because I know you just got into tea, right?
Yeah, I never had loose leaf tea before we had started talking. Definitely is like different than anything else I've had. I'm a big coffee drinker. I drink my coffee black. But tea is just a totally different experience.
Right. And yeah. It's and you like it so far?
I love it.
I'm glad. Yeah. Let's get into the talk.
Okay.
So we're all college students, and it's obviously clearly something that we're passionate about in addition to our academics and social life that we're working on. And so with this episode, I want to focus on discussing the process and experience from all of this and how it contributes to, our creative work and our pursuing our passions. And so to start, I'm curious, what inspired to start your clothing business?
Yeah, so I kind of touched on it already, but I was like a sophomore, junior in high school, and I just discovered Kanye West's music then. In discovering Kanye and looking into Kanye, I discovered this whole other half of his career of clothing design, right. With the Yeezy line and everything, and he worked with a Bathing Ape, he worked with Louis Vuitton, and then with Adidas and Nike. And then so that kind of like was the tip of the iceberg for me for like finding out about men's fashion and streetwear, and then like the rest is kind of history. As soon as I sunk my teeth into it, I just kind of got hooked, like started reading all the blogs, following all the YouTubers, and then eventually like if you're around it enough, I was just like, oh, I want to do my version of this, because it's like and I think this is like kind of a good starting point to talk about like this thing like we're working with our passions. It's just like when you're in an environment and you're looking around and you're like, I think I could do it better than
yeah.
And like I think everybody else like needs to change a few things, and it's like that's just like that's like what kind of sparked the fire of like wanting to create my own business.
Right. And I see. So like you've been influenced by like influencers like Kanye.
Yeah.
That's influenced you to start your own clothing. And I remember before we had a conversation, you also talked about in high school, you were asked to also start to help your classmate design some apparel.
Right. Oh yeah. So this was like the actual push towards making a real brand was I was in the introduction to Photoshop class, and two of my friends approached me. They said, hey, like this kid who is older than us just started a clothing line. And they said, we think we could do it better, but we don't know how to use Photoshop. So we're wondering if you can make us a logo.
Yeah.
And so I was like, sure. And then so we were on Skype, I was doing it. And that they said to me, they're like, the brand name is Unregulated Apparel. And, we don't know anything else than that. And I was like, okay. They're like, I was like, do you know, like, what's the message? Is there anything like, they're like, not really. Like, and then so that one I ended up doing, it just says, originally it was just a font that said Unregulated, but then the R had an R with an X. And it was like, it was supposed to be like drugs are unregulated, but at the time it was supposed to be because drugs are cool. Like, cause I was literally a freshman in high school. But then as I made a couple designs and then we tried to put that into like production, but then they didn't want to put up the money and I didn't have any money because I was a freshman in high school. And then, so that just kind of died. And then later on, my little brother was like, do you remember those unregulated designs that you did? And I said, yeah. And he said, would you want to like do it for real with me? And I said, yeah. And then, so that was like the real, when we actually made clothes. But then that just kind of died out for a lot of reasons because I didn't really know what I was trying to do with it. I didn't really ask people. The designs were a little bit uninspired. Like, and basically it was like, I didn't associate it with like being like pursuing my passion, my life's mission. Like I just kind of like did it to do it, if that makes sense.
Right. And so that was with Unregulated. It was more like, so it wasn't really your own vision.
Exactly. It was like in its origin, it wasn't mine.
Right. Yeah. And how did that progress to Matik Boston?
Yeah. So then Unregulated was just the name I was using because I was like, I can't think of a better name, this is whatever. But so I started actually making my own t-shirts outside of Unregulated summer after my senior year of high school. And so this was like, I ordered a screen printing kit off of Amazon. And then I ordered some tie-dye ink. And I ordered some t-shirts off of blankshirts.com. And so I used what I knew from Photoshop to make a design. The first design I did of like printing my own clothes, because the problem was that we spent like $2,000 getting all these hoodies and sweatshirts made that just said Unregulated. And we didn't have any way to sell them. We didn't have like, we didn't do anything with it. And then so like, this time I tried to do it differently by starting with almost nothing. Like no overhead and just, trying to make one thing and then see what people think. And if it's going good, then make more.
Right.
And then, so I made this design that it was like kind of a play on the Travis Scott Nike collab.
Right.
But it wasn't, it was kind of a reimagining of that. I made a design, but it didn't actually exist. And it was the Nike swoosh with the Cactus Jack smiley face. And it said cactus instead of like Nike in the Nike font. And I made that. I bought some Hanes white t-shirts at Walmart. And then I tie-dyed them, screen printed the design just from like watching YouTube videos on how to make a screen.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then like, they were like really bad quality. Like, they were like, the shirts were terrible. And like the tie-dye was pretty good, but like, the prints weren't coming out even every time. But I showed them to some of my friends and like put them on my Snapchat story and people were like, oh, like, yeah, like I want one. Like, it's like, and that was a pretty crazy feeling. Like the first time being like, transacting.
Yeah. Your own sale, your first sale.
Right. And like having this girl, a friend of mine, she was just like gassing me up about it. She's like, this is so sick. Like my older sister wants one, like, and that feeling of like, oh, this is starting to like become a thing. Like, that summer I did maybe like 20 shirts.
Right.
Summer. And I was psyched. I was like, that's amazing. It's like,
exactly.
I did probably like 2 shirts for Unregulated that I actually sold. And then I went to school and kind of dropped it. I was a freshman in college. And then I came back, COVID hit.
Right.
And then I know that's something that you wanted to touch on. was like how COVID, changed things.
Right. I was when you brought up COVID, I was about to
Yeah.
continue off. So
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah. Go for it.
No, you go for your.
Okay. Yeah. But basically, COVID hit, sent us home. I hadn't thought about making clothing for the most part. I'd done a few designs just like in my free time, like at school, but really wasn't like worried about it. Then COVID hit, and it's like it was terrible. It was really like I was miserable during COVID. It was like really had a negative impact on me. Definitely just like not happy. And then so I was like, oh, I should, something that I can do around the house that might be fun, because it was partially because I saw it a lot on TikTok, people making shirts, and I was like, oh, I should go back to it, right? Like, so I started making shirts out of my garage again, and it was like my second summer doing it. I was a little more experienced. I was now ordering my own like blanks, not getting them from Hanes packs at Walmart. Kind of just like had a bit more knowledge about like how to make these shirts, and I did like better numbers. I was selling them on Grailed too, which is just like eBay for fashion, like
right.
But it wasn't just my Snapchat story. It was I was selling them on a website to the general public as well as people who I knew from my hometown, and it was just like that second summer, it was like, okay, like things started to really pick up, and I but I wasn't doing any original designs was the only problem. I was still printing, like the main thing was the bleach dyeing and the tie dyeing, but I was using Travis Scott inspired or Travis Scott rip off designs.
Okay.
And then so Matic was still not a thing at this point. And then this past semester is when I was starting to be like, okay, like now it's time to like really put it under a name and commit to it, because this third summer was coming up.
Right.
And so like and as you know, I started making TikToks where I just film myself making designs for t-shirts. I started to learn Illustrator. I didn't know Illustrator before, and that's like another tool that I just like has made a huge difference in what I can do. And that's just kind of been the thing, is just like developing skills as I went along. Like when I started, I didn't have any skills besides being able to use Photoshop. And then I learned how to screen print. I learned how to tie dye, and now I know how to use Illustrator. It was like, and that was kind of the inspiration behind Matic, was that it's just like learning by doing and learning. And that was the whole thing. It's just like, you can't be afraid to start, it's just, like, and that's the whole inspiration behind it. It's just learning by doing and
that's
being
big.
Try something.
Right. So up until this semester, even last year when COVID was happening, you were still like during the summer, you were still making sales and making prints, but not under Matic, under Unregulated.
That was still under like the name of Unregulated, but it was kind of barely even that. There wasn't a lot of branding going on. It was just, put it on my Snapchat story. I made these t-shirts, somebody buy them, and people would swipe up.
And now I see you with Matic, you're a lot more intentional in your like in your presence on on social media, and like what kind of content you're putting out and designs you're putting out. And it's definitely starting to take shape in the form of like having a greater sense of like a fashion clothing kind of presence to it. Like it's a lot more apparent now. And from when you were running, when you're doing stuff for Unregulated stuff like Matic, that's now a lot more personal and a lot more aligned with your vision. How did that process change? Like, what are some factors that influence, that change to become much more committed to pursuing this project?
Yeah, I'd say definitely like, well, reading The Alchemist was one thing. That was something in that second summer where I was, doing a lot more volume. I was also introduced by a friend to this book, The Alchemist. We've spoken briefly about this before, but basically this story is about pursuing your personal legend. And it basically it tells the tale of a shepherd boy who ends up in deserts of Egypt, trying to find this secret treasure that he doesn't know what it is, but he knows that it's there. But basically, the metaphor is that everybody has a mission in life. whether it's extremely clear or not.
Mm-hmm.
But the universe conspires to help you achieve that legend if you're willing to listen to the and so that was one thing, was like I was posting stuff on my other Instagram before my Instagram for Matik, and like my aunt reached out to me, who I don't speak to that much. She was like, you come from a family of artists, like all this stuff. She's like, you like do this, like, and I was like, wow, you know, it's like that's pretty crazy, because you know, just like that's something I didn't even know about my family. And then like,
Oh wow.
yeah, people were reaching out to me to buy this stuff, and it's just like, it felt like, you know, that was like, those were the signs like that this is something I need to keep doing.
Yeah, because right, and also me reaching out for the podcast, and
oh yeah, no, even more lately than especially you reaching out, because like that's, you reached out right after I started, like, or right around when I started Matik, which was like huge, because it was like, okay, like I've like you reaching out, I was like, oh, this is like another sign that this is a good step to make, you know.
Right. Yeah, it's crazy. And like I saw you, because I was aware when you had Unregulated, and I noticed you're doing more TikToks and stuff. And I think what really attracted me was the seeing the process of the design, of you drawing out the design, is like, oh man, this guy actually does have talent.
Yeah.
And yeah, you know, like there's a lot of potential here, and you have experience like printing it and making sales with it. And so I think that it's especially also as college students, we should definitely support each other in our like pursuit of passion and stuff.
Yeah.
But you brought up The Alchemist, and I'm also a big fan of the book The Alchemist. And earlier you were talking about learning by doing, and I just remember I was going over some of my notes today, and there was this quote from the book that said, "There's only one way to learn," The Alchemist answered. "It's through action. Everything you need to know you have learned through your journey. You need to learn only one thing more." So it's through action, basically.
It's everything's through action. It's just, that's it. You know, it's like, and I think a lot of people, and myself included, with some things, are afraid to try anything because they're like, oh, well, I'm going to be bad at it.
Yeah.
And like, and I know there's some quote that's like, you know, you have to suck at something before you're good at something. That's just the price of entry.
Right. Right.
And so I think a big part about Matik and like the inspiration, like we were talking about earlier, is just getting over those fears of failure, and also just changing the frame of mind, not seeing failure as a failure, seeing failure as lessons learned and stuff like that. Because I was a little embarrassed with Unregulated. I was really embarrassed, because I was just like, you know, oh, like, I'm so stupid. Like, why would I ever think that people would want to buy these designs? Like, you know, all that stuff. It just like, and it can be really hard to like get over that. But what you have to realize is, it's like, people who are really successful, especially in the clothing industry, have been doing it for years and years and years and years.
Mm-hmm. You gotta put yourself out there.
Absolutely.
Right. That's big, man. And like,
but I feel like I'm very inspired by what you're doing with Time to Tea, or sorry, 2T together, Time for Tea, 2T together. Because I saw your podcast a while before you reached out to me, and because we talked about my friend Turner being on it. But I was really like, damn, like, this is really cool. And it's just so unique, because, you know, we talk about how like a lot of people don't know a lot about tea,
right.
tea. And to take on that duty of, you know, educating people on tea and exposing people to tea, it's like, it's certainly out of the ordinary, and probably not easy, because it's like, I think people are definitely like, they have a tendency not to be open and welcoming to these like new things that they're not used to. You know, it's like, if you've never had tea, they probably don't want to try tea, like if they're closed-minded people. So it's like,
exactly.
I think it's definitely an uphill battle that you're doing in it, but I have so much respect for it, because it's like,
thanks, man.
It's important to expose people to new ideas, and I'm so glad you introduced it to me and gave me some, because it's like, it's something I love now, and I have no idea that, you know, I needed it in my life.
Yeah, that's huge. I really appreciate that. Yeah, no, I it was, for me, it was also because it was me pursuing tea, starting a podcast. All of this was totally unexpected, and it was also one of the things that COVID kind of helped nourish. and also the Alchemist has always been like I started reading in grade 10. That was when I first read it. And then this year I decided to read it for the third time. And every time I go back, I love the journey and like the story of the book about like the personal legend and stuff. And it's always been really inspiring to find something that I'm passionate about. And I guess it's all, this is all part of the process. But something I want to, talk to you about and like discuss is, what keeps you grounded and motivated with all of the chaos, the distraction, and all the noise that comes with, college, being in college. How do you find the balance between, social life, academics, and something on the side that's also very important to your own personal life?
So definitely a lot of my motivation just comes from like having committed to myself already, just like
Right.
saying this is something I don't want to give up on in the past kind of keeps me in check on the times when you do want to give it up, or like it's even when you're uninspired, just, saying to yourself, well, I'm not going to quit, even if I do something small for it, I need to keep working at it bit by bit.
Right.
And also a lot of my inspiration just comes from the people around me. For the most part, the reaction to putting myself out there has been overwhelmingly positive.
Right.
Which is so crazy and so unexpected because, you have these, before you do it, you have all this fear in your head that, people are going to respond negatively, make fun of you, tell you your designs are bad. And there's definitely been a few people that have not been very supportive, but for the most part, just everybody around me, and the people whose opinions matter to me, say they like what I'm doing and they think that it's a good idea. And it's that really like that keeps me going. When I literally was at a party this past Friday, with all the kids from my high school for the first time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I was just walking around and people came up to me and they're like, hey, like I've seen your TikToks on my For You page, because TikTok goes through your contacts.
Right.
It'll show you videos of people, and they're like, I love this design, like whichever one it was. And that like was so, that just gave me the extra pep in my step to like keep going. I was like, I've been working on the Shopify store all weekend because I'm just like, I got to keep going. I got to start making moves because people are expecting big things,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, it's exciting. We're in that, like it's that stage of like just in the very beginning where you got all this hype, excitement going.
Yeah.
And now you guys gotta keep being consistent with it.
Exactly. It's like, it's this close to being real, it's like, I don't right now under the name Matik, like we don't have anything tangible, but like it's just on the horizon and it's just like, oh, sorry.
You're still in the building blocks of it. You're still,
right.
Yeah.
And so just like the next step is just like making something tangible out of it.
Right. Getting some sales going.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's exciting.
It's on people's backs. Like, that's just what I want. I want something for myself too. Like I love wearing my own stuff. When I'm wearing it and it's got my own logo on it, that it's like, you can't beat that feeling.
I know. I'm also someone who's really like, who's always been super into customizing things.
Yeah.
And I feel like having your own brand is like the ultimate customization because you've built that entire thing from scratch.
Exactly. It's like you're wearing like custom everything.
Yeah. Like my favorite teacup was a teacup that I
made it.
Yeah, that I made. And it's even though it's like probably it's not the best in terms of holding capacity for the tea. But like and it's also like design's not perfect. It's like I dropped it in the middle of it, so it's like there's like spikes. But it's my favorite because I know I made it myself. I've seen the process of how it was made, and I know that like uniqueness to your personal self is like something that no one can take away from.
Absolutely. And you made it with your own two hands, and it's just like there's nothing quite like it. Just holding something that like is 100% you. It's just like, and that's the thing is, it's like you don't expect, if I like the inspiration for all the clothes, the interpretations of the songs that I make designs based off, it's like it all comes from me, and like how I see the world and what I think would look good. And you can't expect anybody to see that something you made and, you know, and think it's cool, because it's like, why would they? You know, it's like,
Right.
it's your vision of what is cool or what is like fashionable or whatever. So when you do make something of like that you feel is like an extension of yourself,
Right.
and other people see it and say, oh, I want that, you know, that is a crazy feeling, because it's sort of like validation, you know, it's like, oh, I'm not, you know, it's not just me who thinks this is looks good. It's like these people outside of me and like what I think
Exactly.
clothing should look like. And that's a crazy feeling.
That is, yeah. And what you just said reminded me, sorry, like I'm like flipping for the
No,
pages.
I love it. I love it. I want to
Yeah.
hear Alchemist quotes.
But like what you just said, you know, about like your own doing your own stuff, and like designing things that are unique to your own preference and your own what you think is good.
Yeah.
So the Alchemist says that, you know, when we strive to become better than we are, everything around us becomes better too.
Yeah.
So, you know, like bettering yourself also betters the community.
That's something that I really want to emphasize with Matik, is just that, like, that learn by doing. It's like, I hope people see me, you know, because last summer I post all the process of the printing,
Right.
the dyeing on my Snapchat stories, like all the behind the scenes stuff. And it's like, my hope is that people recognize that and like makes them want to do something themselves.
Exactly. Yeah. It's inspiring. I feel like anyone who is pursuing their own thing that they've got going, it's very inspiring, because you're really putting yourself out there, and you're really just starting from scratch.
Yeah.
And seeing that thing grow is also very encouraging, but it's also, in order for it to grow, you got to be consistent with it. And in order to be consistent with it, you got to be really passionate about it in order to keep it going.
Yeah. And when people see you putting yourself out there and they see, it's like it's an upward spiral, just because people, like, I have people reaching out to me being like, oh, this is so cool. I had one kid reach out to me. He's like, hey, like, I actually like to do graphics too. Like, what do you think of this?
Damn.
Like, yeah, dude. And it was like, that was one kid. And I was like, wow, like, that's crazy that somebody wants my input on like what they do.
Right.
So it's just like, exactly to your point of just like trying to bring everybody up. Cause it's like, I feel like, especially today, whether it's from social media or whatever, like just like people a lack of mindfulness. Like, I feel like there's a lot of bitter people and people try to bring you down.
Right.
And I just like, it makes me really upset when I see it. Like, I see it observing other people, or it's happening in an environment that I'm in, just like negativity and like non-open-mindedness. So I really hope that, like, as I develop the message of Matik, because obviously it's a living thing, it's not, you know, it's not concrete, but I hope it grows into something that nurtures this environment of creativity and like do-it-iveness and just like
Right.
positivity.
Yeah, man, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's exciting times for sure with everything going on.
Yeah.
And we mentioned about COVID previously, but I also want to go back to COVID, because I know before the call we had some talks about COVID that has, you know, that helped contribute to this journey of yours. And so how has COVID impacted, you know, your life and your clothing production?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So definitely the summer of COVID was a big milestone, because I was coming out of the school year, you know, down horrendous, just bad mindset,
Right.
just like bad vibes. And then so we talked about how kind of in that time I was starting to discover mindfulness.
Yeah.
And just meditating and being self-aware. And those were a lot of things that became very important to me as a person. And then now I think it's being reflected in the brand, just because the brand is an extension of myself. So it's
exactly.
Like, yeah.
And so, right. And so mindfulness, it's a big topic nowadays. Everyone's talking about mindfulness, throwing this word around about being more mindful. So what does that mean, like adopting mindfulness, and like what are some mindful practices that you picked up since
Yeah.
COVID?
For me, mindfulness, I would say, is just being aware that you're not the only person on earth, and just
Right.
that it's not your, like, I used to say, like, oh, like my life's a movie, something like that, but it's like that in the, implying that I'm the main character.
Mm,
Like, but realizing that you're not the main character, and like, even if you were, just like none of it is like as serious as we think it is.
right, right,
I think just, and it's a funny balance you kind of have to find between like trying really hard and taking your life seriously, but
right.
not taking yourself seriously, and not
Yes.
having a big ego.
I think that's huge. Like I really do think that you can't take life too serious, because that's also something I'm learning like in my process of the journey. Is like you got to be serious. Like you're right. You brought up something that's really very important about this balance of taking yourself seriously, but also like taking the things that you do seriously, but not taking yourself too seriously.
Exactly.
Yeah, that is big.
Because it's like the biggest thing for me, and even like last summer when I was doing the clothes, it was a lot of my ego involved. I was posting
Mm,
pretty heinous stuff, just being like, I don't even know what I was doing, but it was just like, oh yeah, like, like I'm gonna be the greatest like clothing person ever, and I think I was kind of trying to be Kanye a little bit too, like this big ego inflated, like I'm like, yeah,
right.
that's the way to be successful, because like that's what I want to do. But just in picking up meditation, uh,
Mm.
and just learning, and just journaling was another big thing that I
Oh
started
yeah.
doing. Just in taking those 10-minute periods to reflect and breathe and just, and let it go a little bit.
Right.
I kind of learned that, it's not, that's not the right way to do it.
Right. I also I'm on the same page with you with that, because of when I started doing like when I started also becoming more more concerned with mindfulness and becoming more aware of how to becoming more mindful. I realized that everything's not about yourself. You kind of have to sometimes you have to like recognize your very egotistic ways, and then let those parts kind of just go. And for me, tea has been one of those things that, because tea naturally is and it does make you sit down and reflect a lot. So in that sense, it is very meditative. um
Yeah, and I believe you mentioned something about how, just the history of meditation goes hand in hand with the history of tea.
right, yeah, because it's tea, it became widely accepted amongst the Buddhists and the monks that were practicing meditations every day. They actually drink particularly pu'er, to keep them awake and not fall asleep when they're meditating like all day.
Right, because you sit on a rock for 8 hours.
Right, exactly. And so tea has been the thing that's helped them not fall asleep, but also keep a clear minded and presence.
Yeah.
Um,
I think not only in the, actual consuming of it, but I always find like when I'm making a cup of tea now, it's just very nice to, like, just, I don't have my phone on me. I don't have anything going on. I'm boiling the water. I do this.
right,
It's like, it's just like, it's kind of like a therapeutic process in itself. And then you have, the nice drink, sit outside, do whatever. But I've definitely found that it's like, a great add-on, a great supplement to the other mental health and mindfulness practices I do.
absolutely.
To anybody, that does, like, is trying to get into or is into mindfulness and meditation, I would definitely recommend adding tea to your routine, because I've found it's had a lot of positive impact on me.
Hmm. Maybe we can now shift towards some of your reflections, or just what you think moving forward. Like how following your passion hard has been rewarding, right? It has continuously provided opportunities by putting yourself out there. Um, Maybe we can, and also The Alchemist has been both a very influential book for both of us. what are some key takeaways for you in The Alchemist? I know you already mentioned it earlier, but
Yeah. So definitely from The Alchemist, just understanding that there are signs in the world, that there are things that will happen that are pushing you in a direction that come from the universe.
right.
Just simply put, like there will be things that happen. Like recently, one of my TikToks my friend put it on her story, and a guy who owns a brand in Martha's Vineyard saw it
Oh,
because she has a
wow.
house there. And he reached out to me and said, I want you to make me a design. And we ended up working together.
Yeah.
So that was like, and that was like my second TikTok that I had made this semester. So I was like, okay, what are the odds that I just started to pick this back up again, this, making designs, and now all of a sudden somebody wants to pay me for it. It's like,
It's crazy.
that feels like
Yeah.
somebody's telling me, hey, like, chase the carrot a little bit, like kind of.
Right.
And I know in The Alchemist, they talk about it, this idea of like beginner's luck.
Right. Your personal legend and all of that.
Yeah. They in the book, they say, beginner's luck is the universe trying to incentivize you to continue down this path of your personal legend, your personal passion, because like the universe knows there's going to be ups and downs, but they want you to get started because the whole universe is conspiring to help you fulfill that legend.
And I actually have that quote from the Beginner's Luck.
Yeah,
and on that same page, I'll start off the quote for it. It says, "Every search begins with beginner's luck, and every search ends with the victors being severely tested." And so I think what the author is trying to say is that, every search begins with beginner's luck because it's trying to push you more towards it, your personal legend. But then as you keep on going, it becomes darker and darker. And because right before they introduced this quote, earlier in the page, it said that why don't people's hearts tell them to continue to follow their dreams? And the boy asked the alchemist, and then it said that because that's what makes a heart suffer most, and hearts don't like to suffer. So you have to go through a lot of suffering and dark hours, before making it.
100%. And that's the thing, is the reason you asked, what my motivation is. A lot of my motivation comes from knowing that if I quit, then I just become one of the 99%.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like, how many people you think have tried to start clothing brands?
It's very common.
And how many have made it? There's so many. It's like, but in a year, 5 years, 10 years, how many of those people are still going to be doing it? And that's what matters. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yes.
So it's like marathon. And similarly, there's this Kanye quote. That's probably the most inspirational quote that I can think of.
Yeah.
For me, and he said, "Lock yourself in a room doing 5 beats a day for 3 summers. I deserve to do these numbers."
Oh wow!
When he was first starting, because he used to just be a producer, he made 5 beats a day. I don't know if it's 100% true, but the idea is that make 5 beats a day in your room for 3 summers. Because that's just how you get better, is by doing and doing and doing.
Yeah, by doing and doing.
And then so I'm coming up on this is my 3rd summer doing this.
Wow.
So I have a feeling of butterflies in my stomach, because I have a feeling that like there's going to be a lot of big things coming out of this summer.
Right. You just get that feeling, and then once you get that feeling, you can't. I know exactly what you mean. Like that feeling where like you just have the feeling that it's going to be good and there's going to be opportunities.
Yeah.
And that's like momentum. Just keep making it keep going.
Exactly. I feel it in my core, and I'm just so excited.
That's awesome. I'm happy for you.
Thank you, dude.
Yeah. Wow. But something I wanted to also mention about the book, because have you read the foreword? Because I wasn't aware of this until like reviewing it for this episode, that I only become aware of now about The Alchemist.
What is it?
Okay, so the author, he said that he was in the foreword, he was talking about like the background of the story, right?
How it didn't sell.
Yeah, how it didn't sell. And he was saying how like this, but he had a lot of faith in it this entire time, because the book was basically him. It's like a fictional autobiography. It like represents his story, his soul. But it didn't sell for an entire year, and he was actually 41 at the time and desperate. Like before this book, he wasn't known, but then this book is like now one of the 10 best-selling books of the 20th century.
Yeah, and it's, you know, I remember it said it took an American coming to South America and picking up the book and deciding that it needed to be translated into English. Like,
yeah,
it's like those crazy breaks like that. But on your point of it being an extension of himself or his own, it's a story about him. That's exactly what I'm talking about with the clothes. The clothes are just, you know, an extension of me.
right.
It's I identify a lot with what this book talks about.
Yeah, man, me too. And it's like I feel like it applies to everyone's life, but anyone who is pursuing like their personal legend.
Yeah, and that's the thing is I wish everybody would read it just so we could talk about, because it really helped me understand what I wanted to do.
Right.
You know, and so I feel like if more people knew what they wanted to do, it would be, you know, like, I don't know. I want to be able to discuss these things with more people, because I, like, when you reached out, I immediately understood that it's like, oh, he's pursuing this passion of tea and he's going to be doing all these things. He has the podcast, like just producing something, trying to make something, is like, that's the stuff that I really value.
Right.
Like,
Me too.
I want to know more people who are doing that and like following their passions and just like go-getters. It's like, and that's kind of what the message of the brand is just like, go do it, you know, do whatever you're doing, do it to the max.
Yeah, dude, that's beautiful. Yeah, that is beautiful. I do think I definitely agree, because also part of the reason with, like, you know, to tea together and the whole tea thing that I've been really like pushing towards is to spread, you know, tea culture in my community of people around me. I want to show them that, you know, tea is beyond a drink. It's beyond just tea bags. There's a whole culture and history to it, and that and there's also experience, you know. So that it's to change people's perception about tea, just how like in the 60s people's perception of coffee was also changed.
Yeah, and I think it's very admirable, but it's also, I was so interested to learn when you said the history of tea is older than like the history of wine, something like
well, yeah, something like it's comparable, like tea. A lot of people compare tea with coffee, but I think it's more appropriate to compare tea with wine, because there's a lot more similar attributes between tea and wine than tea and coffee.
You mentioned that it's a consumable antiquity.
Yeah, there is that aspect of it. For aged teas, you can definitely age it, and the longer it's aged, it's been stored, the higher value it is. It increases in value with its age.
That's very cool. And that's it's just, that's to your point of there's more to tea than just, you know, Lipton disposables. It's like, I don't think a lot of people know that. And so, you know, that's like, I love that that's your job, is to, you know, just let people know that there's so much more going on. And it's had an impact on me. You know, it's like, I drink it frequently now.
Yeah.
I pair it with my meditation. I pair it with when I'm journaling, and it's just like, it's part of my life, you know?
Yeah. And I think it's one of those things that go really hand in hand with what we're experiencing with the trends of society right now, of like people wanting to pick up things that are more authentic, wholesome, healthy, and mindful. Like tea checks all of those boxes.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's just getting away from like all the fake stuff. It's like, it seems hard to avoid now these days. Just like things that are bad for you without even knowing they're bad for you.
Right. And so like I do have a lot of faith in it, but I think it's gonna take some time, because it's one of those things that's so simple and that's just so out there. It's been here for a long time, but in our part of the world, it's just been very like non-existent. There hasn't been enough perception, and just like not a lot of people are not representing it and putting stuff like this out, so people are not as exposed to it. But I think as more people get exposed to it, it will get picked up easier.
Yeah. And I think giving people an easy way to access it, both literally and metaphorically,
Right.
is important. So I don't know if it's like, if I'm jumping the gun here, but kind of like, if you want to talk about what our plans are to kind of help push that forward.
Yeah. That's perfect transition. But well, we were dropping a collaboration of
Yeah.
clothing apparel for T and Matic. And you want to briefly describe the design?
Yeah. So the main design is, so our mascot, his name is Steve the robot, because Matic, learning by doing, is kind of, I'm also a computer science major. So artificial intelligence is something that I'm really interested in. And the way artificial intelligence works is that it gets better by doing stuff, because it learns where
Wow.
errors are, and it gets better at doing the thing.
Uh,
And then so that's why I kind of chose a robot to represent the brand, because, just getting better by doing. And so we have Steve, and he's pouring himself a cup of tea, but he's
the guy one.
yeah, with a guy one, and it's overflowing out of the cup, which kind of symbolizes, it's okay to make mistakes.
Right.
And there's room, and everybody makes errors, even robots. So like, I think it's going to be really cool. It's not quite finished, but we're working on it.
Right.
And I'm really excited for when the final product is out, because I think it's a great way for people to kind of get a first taste, in a sense, of the life of tea.
Yeah, and then when we were envisioning this collab, the idea behind the design is that the tea component is exposing the artisanal tea to a non-traditional audience. So our audience is college students, and college students, especially with tea, it's not their preferred to go drink. But our design and the collab is geared towards this audience that's very non-traditional, but also very innovative at the same time. So it's going to be a very exciting drop, and there's going to be a whole order and everything once everything drops with this episode. It's going to be, I'm excited.
Me too. I think it's very cool, because when you originally approached me with the idea, you said, I want to take this thing that's really delicate, tea, and combine it with this loud and aggressive streetwear aesthetic.
Yeah, aesthetic.
Yeah, and I was just like, when you said that, I felt something. I was like,
Right.
It clicked for me.
We're bringing the tradition, combining tradition with
traditional and trendy.
Yeah, traditional and trendy stuff. It's a new take on tea and a new take on fashion.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about, making something that's never existed before. That's what it's all about.
Exactly. And can't wait for everyone to see this.
And hopefully wear it.
Yeah, hopefully wear it. But yeah, it's been absolutely amazing having you talk on this podcast, man.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited for everyone to hear this, especially for our friends at Wake. I'm also very excited for everyone to see the design of this collaboration, because it's going to be absolutely fire.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, man. Take care.
Yep, you too.